name's Edwin. I'm living in Ithaca, New York. I'm a PhD student here in computer science. What else should I say? I'm 26 years old. And I'm an undoer. Man, wow. My life was a sort of unconscious roller coaster on like rails. And you can see where it's going. It's not very exciting. I mean, it's exciting maybe because you know that there's like the little mountain part of the roller coaster's coming up. So you're like, oh, that's cool. But you know, you already know how you're going to feel. You know, it's it's just like, and you've already gone around several times and it's just like, okay. So it was just kind of boring. My life was just very directed towards academics. So just getting good grades, striving higher and higher up the ladder of academia, and ultimately college or PhD, and I'm here in a PhD, and I don't, I find myself disconnected from. I could keep going and I can invest these next 5 years, but I have no drive because I've never been connected to what drives me at all, Before I started undoing, my biggest, life sticking points, were just like a general anxiety and depression. Sort of like a dysthemia, really, like a sort of generalized mood, like low mood, and I felt powerless to do anything about it. It was sort of like a vague hoping that it would somehow go away. After starting undoing, I feel a sort of like a transformation happening. There's a sense of, the mood isn't like suddenly like, whoa, something crazy, but it's something unprecedented, something like there's different moments in my life that I wouldn't have before. It's sort of just happening by itself. Before, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, what should I do to fix my life, and what's the thing, this and that. And now it's just like effortlessly changing, and so it's like a lot less stressful. It's a bit scarier in a way because it's like a letting go of the control, but then there's also the relief, like, okay, at least I don't have to figure it out. So it's pretty nice. My greatest desire, and it continues to this day, so it's not like it just disappeared. But I guess like sexuality in particular, just like having sex covered, feeling a sense of that it's just like a natural part of myself, and I don't have to really worry about it, etc. It was mostly a lot of just fantasizing about how it would happen, thinking, watching a lot of videos on like how to do it, not taking any steps because it seems like it felt that even the smallest step was impossible for me, and so there was nothing I could do to do anything about it. I think the question that's like everybody wants to ask, but it's like too scary because I don't think most people know the answer or believe that there is an answer. Even if you dare to ask it, it's hard to trust anybody who would answer that question. How can you find real joy and meaning in life and peace of mind? And so an answer to that question would be pretty great. And And I think that's sort of the mission for like undoing, in a sense. Because after you drop victimhood, you do whatever you want. So you just live from that place of joy and peace and all that. If only, you know, I had the courage to ask that question and look back then, that maybe I would have been here a lot earlier, you know. My behavior completely, you know, started shifting. I just started enjoying interactions more without stressing too much about, you know, I need to, you know, do the, like, attract the girl or whatever, to do the right things, be the pickup guy, whatever. And so things just started flowing, and I started enjoying things, and, you know, I just started getting you know, attention from girls, and eventually the crazy thing happened, and I had sex, and that was like, what? Like, I would have never imagined that I would be able to do that. And now I'm seeing that compulsion sort of gradually sort of dropping away, like softening. It's not like I'm becoming asexual, but it's like this sort of intense drive of like, I gotta prove myself, is disappearing from the sense of like being decoupled from sexuality. And so it's not feeding it as much. So it's just naturally becoming less stressful. So it's a process, right? So, you know, I'm not gonna pretend like I got it all figured out, but again, there's just unprecedented things happening in my life, and I'm learning more and more to trust in it. I guess sort of the undoing sort of broke the track of the roller coaster. So like I just flew off, and it feels, you know, that's the scariest thing, because you might die, you know what I mean? It's like, oh shit. So, you know, and I'm still flying in the air. So that's genuine exhilaration, because now you don't know what's gonna happen, but it's scary, you know. And so I find myself making decisions out of a different place, instead of out of fear or out of inertia in my life. Like, oh, I should just keep doing this because I've done it all in my life, or just because it's comfortable. I'm making decisions that are just completely just out of nowhere. So I don't even understand myself. Like, I can't predict my own behavior. So for example, like this summer, I signed up to volunteer at a summer camp for kids, like to teach them survival skills or whatever. And I have no experience at all in the wilderness. Never before have I even considered that. And that's just completely terrifying, because it's out of my comfort zone. And yet I find myself just letting myself get drawn towards that. And after that, you know, during the fall, I'm gonna be, I'm right now I'm in the process of planning living in Europe. And, you know, whether or not that works out or not, the point is that I find myself taking actions in directions that are just completely out of nowhere, that are exciting, that it feels like a part of me that wants to do it is sort of taking the lead, while I'm just like what are you doing? And it's exciting. It's awesome. So life is starting to feel more and more like an adventure, and it's not a lie. The victim to adventure, it's a complete transformation. Pretty crazy. Yeah, so the sorts of I guess personal development material that I started looking at, I think I started probably with Tony Robbins, just a lot of his, like, Awaken the Giant Within and books like that. I realized that a lot of, you know, I was pretty like everywhere. I didn't know what I wanted. I kind of wanted to just solve everything. So I had like books on entrepreneurship. I had social skills, and then in particular with women, doing that part of my life. And I'm just like overwhelmed completely. I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna have to become an expert at all this and have to optimize how I'm going to, tackle all of this. So that was really overwhelming. But I think eventually I started prioritizing just the sorts of things that naturally felt more urgent for me. And then it became mostly about the women thing. And so I read this book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And reading it gave me this spiritual experience that I had never had. I was like, whoa, like it was like everything's okay. I was like, okay, that's whoa. So I kind of like kept that in the back of my mind, like, okay, so, if all else fails, at least I can go back to this meditation stuff and, and like feel like everything's okay. So that gradually that became more interesting for me. So I started just getting into Zen meditation stuff. I had like a sort of peak, like a awakening experience last year in December. And then, so that got me really like focused on sort of internal looking at myself and my programming. I became hyper aware of how I don't know what I want, and I'm just chasing things that I don't even know what I want. I was actually looking at Ramit Sethi's, he has this thing called, he has a lot of products for zero to launch. One of them is called just for like building a course, an online course, or just a company, an online company to make side income. Because I wanted to like have some freedom to like digest this experience outside of school. So I wanted to have a different income stream. And then randomly, one of the testimonials or something was Garrett. And so I was just like reading it, like, okay, this is silly. It's like showing his distorting his face, like that was like the image, and I was like, what? So I was just kind of reading it because it looked kind of like, because I guess at that point I identified as a seeker, and I saw it, he was described as a seeker. So I was like, I wonder how he did it. And then eventually I ended up in his website, and then I started reading his blog entries and listening to his podcast things, and they resonated way too much. And I was like, oh, okay. So he knows what he's talking about. So I just jumped in. It made sense to jump into a community that basically, explores this thing that's this idea of connecting with who you actually are instead of, the program itself. I guess my favorite part about the dailies and being in this whole community, me personally, I don't think I've ever really felt like a part of a community. There's always been like a sort of, just a hesitation, because I've had a lot of anxiety in my life with joining people, with being vulnerable enough to join a group of people and all that. But just being a part of it without even necessarily having to do anything is power. It's like a reminder every day of like where my priorities lie. That's really nice. It's a scary transition, like going from victim to adventure, because there is a sense of like, stuff is happening and this is cool. But then there are moments where like the fear takes over, and then you can just sort of let that take over and slow down. It feels like an inevitable like path. Once the rails are broken, you're just flying. So it's just whatever. It's just gonna happen. But you can slow yourself down. So having that reminder all the time, like sometimes I'm like paralyzed in bed, just freaking out about just where my life is going and just like what's going on, and just having the community there where I can just express that and be like, I'm scared. I don't know, and then like feel that sort of support is it's really useful. I guess for me personally, the fear keeps me from trying new things, you know, like when I let it. And this whole, like, the undoing exercises is a new thing. It's like I have to like drop my sort of intellectual defenses or whatever, like you know, I already got it figured out, you know, like, oh, I don't need dailies anymore or whatever. And I can, but I say it, and I say it out of fear. I feel the fear of like wanting to feel that you finally figured it out, even though the whole point is that you don't know what's going to happen. So the daily sort of just helps me, like, gives me opportunities to break that habit, you know. So that's, and then physically do the exercises that help the mind break that habit. Having a community where you're not expected to do anything it sort of drops the anxiety of, okay, I have to perform a certain way. So the daily, sometimes I just, you know, don't do it, and it's fine, and I don't get any judgment. And sometimes I do it because I break through the fear and I do it. Say an honest thing, I guess. And I think that fundamentally you don't want to do undoing because who you are, that is the thing that's holding you back, and you sort of know that letting go of that is sort of letting go of yourself, and that's the scariest thing. But maybe if you're tired enough of the patterns in your life, one thing I know that helped me personally see my patterns was journaling. I remember I kept a journal for a year, and not like every day, but like pretty much every other day, or maybe sometimes just whatever. It was pretty consistent. And then looking back and reading over it, it was the same like feeling of like, you know, I didn't do it, but, you know, I'm making progress. And then, you know, trying to like delude myself into thinking that I'm changing, this sort of false optimism. And so, you know, maybe if you keep a journal, you will see that that's true in your life. And the change is the way that'll change is fundamentally different than what you think it is. And so if you're ready to try something completely different, because maybe you can see how it's going to keep playing out, then honestly, undoing is the thing, is waiting for you. So that's what I would say. Yeah.